Welcome to the Entrepreneur Podcast, a guide to fast casual fortunes with myself, Brandon Haught, and Joe Collin.
How's it going, bro?
Good, man. It feels so good to be back.
Oh, my gosh. A little hiatus.
Little hiatus,
a little bit of a touch of COVID.
Yeah, some
Set
family
me up
things.
for a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, man. Dude, it feels good. These seats feel nice.
Tell you what, what's funny? You know when you're really into something and you're enjoying it, you fiend to do it.
Yeah.
I remember that's how we were starting off with the business. We couldn't wait every minute to be done. Our wives hated us. We were like, yeah, we'll be back. We're going to leave for 3 days. Don't worry about it. So it feels good to be back.
Dude, what feels even better right now is I'm in the shop in a T-shirt, bro.
Man, you're maybe a little early.
Hey, man, I'm ready. It's never too early.
Yeah, so spring's coming.
Spring's coming.
And with that brings
events,
which
I'm so pumped to talk about. So,
right.
We're just getting into this. This is going to be your money making episode, right?
Mm.
Our first one was our introduction.
Yep.
Second one was menu, which you got to put the menu together, know what you're selling. And then the third one was
what kind of unit are you going to use?
What kind of unit you're going to use? That's right.
Right. And that segues off. So you have your unit, you have your menu figured out. Now you're ready to roll.
Ready to rock, man. Ready to make some money.
So, hopefully your menu is ready for a busy events. We just did a couple of St. Patrick's Day deals.
Yeah.
I was up in Clare, and a guy we've been talking to for a while, it was his first event. And he was super nervous. Kind of funny story. We talked about how things are going to mess up. He said on the way there, one of his tables tipped over.
Wow.
He said he got in there. The table was like 300 pounds. He's like, I quit. I'm selling the unit. He pulled through. He went to the event, and it blew his mind. He did $6,000 in 2 days, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
So the dream can become a reality. It's not unrealistic to do something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. First event. Bam.
And here's the thing. I mean, he overcame, right?
Right.
How easy would it be just to say, screw this?
Right. 2 years in the making, and then day one, there's a mistake.
Yeah. You got to expect it. But he also, dude, that takes some courage to go out and step out into St. Patrick's Day, your first event.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good segue to this. So we talked about it before, where if you have events or you have an obligation, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
You're going to show up for it, and you're going to work through some of those hurdles because they're going to happen. And at the end of the day, you'll have some problems. You'll have things that went wrong, some frustrations. But hopefully, you learn something, made a little bit of money, and can look back and reflect and enjoy it in hindsight.
Yeah. And all of us are at different stages, right? We were just breaking out a new concept, and it felt right for us. We knew that we had to get in some small events before we got that casino concert.
Right.
So we did some small things to build up to it, to work out some kinks. But some people are ready to jump right in.
Right. So on events, what you're the guy. You book all the events. You find them. What do you see to be the best type of events? What are you looking for?
So obviously, when we're talking to event organizers, man, you take that with a grain of salt. No offense, event organizers, but there's very few who are spot on with their numbers as far as food truck sales go and things like even attendance.
Well, also they might be getting wrong information, so it's hard for everybody.
But yeah, you have to do your own research. So what I always look for the ideal. I'll give you the ideal event, okay, and you guys can go from there. So the ideal event, when an organizer reaches out to me and says, "Do you want to come do my event?" I always ask these questions: how many trucks are you booking? How long you've been doing this, and how many people do you expect to be there? And I guess if there's a fee, okay, of any kind. And
so let's start with that. So say somebody says, okay, we have an event. It's one day. There's going to be a couple thousand people. How many trucks is too many trucks for that?
You said a couple thousand people?
Yeah, 2,000 people.
So ideally you look at, and then here you can dig in a little deeper, and this is where our experiences came from. So if you're looking at like a car show or a concert, only 20 to 25% of those people eat.
Right.
So then you got to do the math on that, okay? But if it's a food truck rally and people are coming there to spend money and to eat, you can almost say 100% of those people are going to eat.
Probably
80%.
They'll probably try multiple units.
Yeah, exactly. So it depends on what kind of event you're doing.
Yeah, so not a food truck event. You probably want one truck per 1,000 people?
I always go 500.
Okay.
So per 500 would be a good ratio.
Sure.
So we go based off of that number, and then also we try not to get any duplicates, because that's something you need to ask too. Because I've been to events where there's 4 barbecues, 2 taco trucks. You know what I mean? So you want to look into the duplicates to make sure they're not doing any duplicates.
Yeah. Having multiple trucks is okay. You just don't want to be competing against every single truck there having the same item.
Yeah. And then some of them are like, could be shaved ices or desserts, and those aren't competing trucks.
Sure.
Right. I do like to count those into that mix.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's number one for me is attendance, and make sure that that ratio is there.
We've done a large amount of bad events.
Yeah,
So
I would say so.
Yeah, we have a pretty good experience with what a bad event looks like. And you have to roll the dice sometimes. You're not always going to hit home runs with those. You're not, your first time out isn't always going to be like the guy I was talking about where you just knock out of the park the first go. Sometimes, you're getting your feet wet and you're learning, and maybe that wasn't the event to make money out. It was the event to learn at. But as much as you can avoid that, you can only go out and lose money so many times.
Yeah.
So you definitely want to start being cautious of what you're getting into. Be smart about it. Don't get overhyped when an event organizer tells you last year everybody made $30,000.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
well, and not only that, I mean, guys, we are not too far removed from this experience. You know what I mean? In the last year, we've made a lot of bad choices on events and things like that.
Yeah.
And, I'm at the point now where I'm pretty comfortable in telling almost every event organizer, we are not okay with doing first-time events.
Yeah.
First-time events are a huge question mark.
Yep.
In so many different categories. They don't know how many people are going to show up. There's a lot of things that they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm even helping veteran event organizers right now tweak their hours.
Mm-hmm.
Because here, in my experience, you can have
you don't want to start at 9.
Well, not only that, I have event organizers starting on Fridays at noon. Okay. They're starting at noon and they're done at 6. But what I've seen is people are still working.
Yeah. People aren't showing up till 4 or 5.
Yeah. So you want to make sure those events are key hours. I mean, look at what you're selling, what your peak times are anyways. But, Fridays, you're going to want you're going to want it to be after 5.
Sure.
So I told her, the last event organizer I talked to, maybe 2 to like 8 or 2 to 7, we need those after hours, but don't start before that. So so those are things to look at. You got to look at the hours too. Fees. Okay.
Yeah. So this is where knowing your percentages come a long ways. The events typically work one of two ways. It's usually a percentage of sales or a flat fee. I think I kind of prefer flat fees because it's a known, but you can roll the dice and say, so if you're going to say 10% and say your overall profit's 30, 40%, immediately a quarter of your profit's gone.
That's true.
Yeah. So
I'm actually more comfortable with a percent depending on where it's at though, because we actually are getting an event organizer right now that wants to do 10%, which is typically okay for us.
Yeah, it's okay.
But the travel. So if we're traveling 2 hours, and I thought about this, actually, I multiplied this out and figured this out for them. With our labor and traveling, we're automatically losing another 5% if we do 2 or 3 grand. Say we do $3 grand, we're losing about 5% of that profit in travel, fuel, labor, and all that too. So those are the things you do have to take into consideration. So in that aspect, I would prefer a flat fee.
So what are some other things to think about with the event? So, you have finding the good event, knowing your numbers. How about the logistics of events?
Yeah.
Because those can be different animals. So
there's a lot into that.
If you have an event that's going to be 4 days, now you have to have 4 days worth of product.
Yeah.
So are you going to be setting up a pickup at Gordon's, or are you able to carry that much food? Are you going to have to be bringing food back to the unit every day? So these are all things that it's going to take time. You're going to have to do a couple things to figure it out, but knowing it up front helps out a lot too. You don't want to be surprised going, okay, this is 4 days and you packed enough food for a day and you're in trouble. So.
Yeah. And honestly, we were always kind of against multi-day events until recently, you know what I mean? Just because of the logistics and that kind of animal is totally different than just a 1-day event or a 4-hour event. I mean, not only are you learning about logistics for food, you're learning about logistics for, having overnight electricity. You're worrying about your labor. There's a lot of different things to take into consideration for multi-days that get expanded. I mean, if you're 10, 12 hours a day, think of how much labor you're using.
Yeah, labor.
So it's got to be killer events.
Now you actually start to worry about propane, things like that. So, that's what we build our last unit for. Back to understanding what you're building that unit for is 4 big events. That's
exactly
exclusively what it's for, basically. But
we were not really ready for big events until not this year. Really, like we have a unit built for.
We turned down a lot of events that were pretty big because we just knew we weren't built for it. Yeah. So having that self-recognition, we could have done it and really fallen on our face.
Yeah.
So having that self-awareness to know that maybe I'm not ready for this, or you know what, maybe you want to go out there and roll the dice and give it a shot and see what you're not ready for.
And see how much you want to risk. Yeah. And I remember one event too, like, you need to think about where your stock is because we have stock vehicles, and at one event they had to be 100 yards away, basically.
Yeah. So now you have one person trying to carry.
So now you got an extra person labor and trying to bring stuff back and forth. You got to figure out how to do that. There's a lot that goes into
big events are, what we try to fill up a lot of our summer with.
Yeah.
What else do we throw into there summer for our days? caterings, right?
Caterings are huge.
Yeah.
And that's always the ratio that I'm trying to increase.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's us personally. I'll go on your strategy, because I know a guy right now that only does big events because he can clear, like you were talking about last time, throwing out these big numbers. I don't like to, but I know of a guy that can clear $50,000, $60,000, $70,000
it's out there
over a weekend. You know what I mean? And so he doesn't want to touch catering.
Yeah.
But when you're a typical guy, like I would say, the majority of trucks, you're going to be more profitable catering. It's going to be a lot. I feel like it's less stress.
Yep.
You know exactly how much you're making. You know how much product you need. You know exactly how much labor you need.
Right.
There's a lot of things. You know a lot going into it.
So when you're looking at a catering event, what are you figuring out as far as numbers?
So for us, like we talked about in our first or second episode, our minimum, we need to hit $750 a day just to break even. So I don't take anything less than, like, if it's local and I figured out the travel time and stuff like that, I usually don't take anything less than about 100 people for,
And that's how you usually say it to the customer. You want 100 people.
Yeah.
You're not throwing out a dollar amount necessarily. You're saying, this is how many people I want.
Yeah, exactly. Because then I leave that up to them. So then they can do like different items.
Depending on your menu. Yep. Yeah. So if I have 100 people, I'm going to hit my number.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's where I'm a lot different too. I mean, where we're a lot different is our menu doesn't really change for catering.
Sure.
So, and I know that our average ticket is about $15. So then I understand that if we got 100 customers, we're probably going to at least hit that $1,500 mark.
Right.
So that's how I figure that out.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it's interesting. The guy I talked about up front there, I messaged him. He said he did really good. I go, cool. What'd you learn that you're going to have to get rid of? And he does what looks delicious is a chicken and waffles. It's like a mini chicken and mini waffles.
Yeah.
And he said that takes him about 8 minutes to do, 6 to 8 minutes. So you got to know, okay, if you're going to cater that, fine, you can figure that in with your time. But if you're doing an event, that menu item's probably out.
Yeah.
That's
and so that brings up another good point is, what do you think the average ticket time needs to be for these big events?
If you're at a big event, you got to be under 3 minutes, right?
Have to be.
Yeah.
I'd say so.
Because again, you're going to have people waiting. They're only going to wait so long, and it piles up fast.
Yeah, exactly.
It's nothing to have 50 people in line pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So you need to be under 3 minutes. So you're going to want to, that's a good point. You're going to want to, depending on what kind of vehicle or unit you have, cater to, if you're doing caterings or if you're doing events. So those events are going to be a lot faster than what you're going to have to be for a catering.
Yeah. And this is my advice to everybody. Okay. Don't get wowed or wooed or whatever by the numbers. Okay. Who cares if there's 10,000 people there and 5 trucks? Guess what? If you can only serve 50 people an hour, you're only serving 50 people an hour.
Yeah. That was, I remember saying this to you, and I just remember looking at you and as the light went on.
Yeah.
You only have so much time to serve so many people.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter like you said, what the numbers are.
Yeah.
There could be a ton of people. If you can't get through a line, then it's not going to matter much.
Yeah, 100%. So that's something that you got to take in consideration. You have to know your ticket times, guys.
That guy you're talking about that does those numbers.
Yeah.
He has 4 cooking units going that could probably put out a dish every minute.
Yeah. Well,
per unit.
He actually expands to 8 cooking units.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah. So, he can handle whatever they could throw at him.
Exactly.
So, and you kind of got to figure that up front. Maybe you're not, like I said, up front, we weren't built for bigger events.
Yeah.
We built ourselves for the casino, which we knew every hour we're going to have 30 minutes of a crazy rush.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at that ratio there is about 12,000 people, 12,000. And then, we only have like 5 or 6 vendors, and we're maxed out, and then it dies down, and then we're maxed out, and then it dies down. So speed is key. And that's what it's going to be for a lot of these events, guys. I mean, a lot of these big events that we do well at is because I would say our average ticket is 2 minutes or less, you know? And so that allows us to be quicker than probably the average. But that's what we built this around. We want to be speed. And if you don't have speed, then you're going to want to really gear your idea and your strategy around catering probably.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely. So we're going to do 15 minutes.
Yeah, guys. Hey, this is a guide to fast casual fortune. So we're going to try something fast this time around.
We get long-winded, but I think we'll touch on this again in the next episode.
Yeah.
We're going to try to keep them to 15 minutes. Give us some feedback. Let us know what you like.
This is episode 1, guys, of the menu and events, and how to make some money. We really want to extend this to the second episode, guys. So, you can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. And, we really appreciate if you guys found anything out of this valuable, just subscribe to us, guys. That way you guys know everything that's coming out. Continue to help us build this following and get the word out.
And, come along for the ride with us. And if you've been kicking around the idea, this is a great way to get a little information to see if it's something for you. So appreciate your time. Have a good one,
We're
guys.
super excited, guys. See you, man.